Hello, everybody, and welcome to Toast Time. I'm Cassandra, and this week I am making khachapuri, which is a filled bread from Georgia, not the state, Georgia, the country. And this has eggs and cheese in the middle of it. It has a really cool boat shape. It's a yeasted bread that is right before it's baked is filled, and then the egg goes in right before it's done baking. So we have a lot of work to do. I have some water over here, and it needs to get up to about 115 degrees with the milk. So I heated up the water, and I'm going to check the temperature. So I'm at about 150 with this. I'm going to put in the milk. Hopefully that'll bring it down to what I need so I can keep moving on the recipe. Let's see here. Hey, all right, 119. Good. All right, so I have my flour in here, just regular all-purpose flour. I'm going to put in salt, yeast, and some sugar. And now I also have olive oil here, and that's going to go in right before the dough is done being kneaded. So it's going to knead for a little bit like this, and then we'll add in the olive oil. These things over here, I have eggs, and those are the eggs that are going to go in when it's almost done baking. The butter is for the same time, and the cheese is for the filling. There are 3 different types of cheese here, and I have, well, depending on where you're from, mozzarella, and feta, and queso fresco. So I'm going to mash these up and mix them all together, and that will be the filling. The next step is going to be putting the liquid into all of the dry ingredients, putting it on the mixer for a little while with the dough hook, getting a dough that comes together, and then putting in the oil, and then I'll show you what consistency the dough comes out at that point. Dough went for a while on the mixer. It was really soft and sticky. I added some extra flour, and I didn't actually add in all of the liquid either. I'll make the adjustments on the recipe though for that. Now I covered it in just a tiny bit of flour because it was still really sticky. It's very soft. You can see pressing on it. I think it's going to rise quickly. I'm going to put some olive oil, just a little bit, in a glass bowl. Again, glass, because the metal bowl will make it rise a little unevenly, and we don't want that. I'm going to put this into a ball, give it a little swirl in that olive oil, flip it over, a little shake it, and then I'll put the cap on, and I'm going to put it into the proving oven because we do have kind of warm weather here, and actually did turn on the air conditioning just a little bit today. I wanted to prove a little bit faster. This has to double in size, and then we're going to punch it down, then let it rise for another 30 minutes. I just took this out of the proving oven. I'm going to punch it down. It rose really nicely, very fluffy, and this part's really fun. Squish. Sometimes you'll get really big air bubbles. That's nice. And this dough has come together really nicely now. See, it's going to be able to be formed into that boat shape that we need. This part is knocking all the air out, and then we let it sit again for another half an hour. The dough did its second rising here, and again, it rose a lot, very fluffy. We are going to roll it out, so it's okay if I'm kind of poking at it a little bit. Now I'm going to flour my workspace. The oven is preheating to 450 right now. Gonna be a lot of dough. Okay. And we want absolutely no sticking. All right. So on my hands. There we go. Oh, that was nice. Didn't even have to touch it. All right. So I cut it into quarters. I'm not measuring or weighing this. I'm just going for it. I'm going to create a little bit of a circle here. And put it down. A little bit of a circle here. Just starting to get that shape formed. Okay. And last one. So yes, this makes 4 Khachapuri. Okay. Get rid of some of the excess, but I'm going to keep it off over here to the side for easy access. Roll it out. I did just work the dough a little bit. It might be a little resistant to being stretched at the moment. Let's see. Like this. And then let them sit, and I'll get it out to the full 9-inch circle afterward, after it has a chance to rest for a few minutes. Now, I know I have the flour down on here. Sometimes it is nice to use the counter to maintain a dough stretch. What I mean by that is, I'll show you. There are areas here that don't have the flour on it, and the dough is kind of sticking to the counter. Not terribly, not to where it's going to cause any issues, but you can see, I don't know if you can, it's sticking. And if you're wanting to let dough rest a bit so you can get it stretched further, this is kind of nice to have because it will rest in a stretched state and you won't have to work as hard moving forward. Whereas these ones here, they get contracted back in because I took them off of the counter. Leave this one here. And we're going to be rolling this and shaping it. It's not imperative that we get a perfect circle on these. Not that it's ever really imperative. Unless you're working with croissants, it makes it a lot better and easier to have the exact measurements. But even then, it's all for fun and it's all for yum. And you can see the difference between this and this. And these are both resting, they're both doing the same thing, but even if I take this up now, it's not going to contract nearly as much as that one did. So I'll do that, and you can see how much of a difference just that amount of time made. Now we start rolling this in towards the center. Start rolling this in. And then we're going to take these, kind of roll, pinch them like that. Ah, so cool. All right, we want to make sure that there's enough room for the cheese and the egg and all the filling stuff that happens. Okay, it's really cool. I was nervous about this shaping because it's something that I've never done before or attempted, but there it is. And you have these nice high walls for the filling to stay inside, even when the cheese gets all melty, gooey. Exciting just thinking about it. I'm getting hungry. All right, there's one. I'll show you there. One. Grab this one next. And you can see this is rolling out even a lot nicer now. You want to work a little bit quickly with this because it is a rising yeasted dough, and you don't want to be giving the yeast too long that it's not going to rise in the oven for you. Not that you're rushing, but you don't want to go and do something in the middle of doing this. Okay. Start rolling this side. Start rolling this side. Bring it in, and pinch. I really like this shape just for anything else even. This is great. Scrape this down. The recipe says to put the cheese in and then do the wash on it. I kind of want to do the opposite just because I don't want to be messing with where the cheese could be getting onto my pastry brush. I think that could get a little bit goopy. Here's my wash. Nice coating. These are going to go in for 15 minutes, and then we put in the egg and a little bit of butter on top of the cheese because, I mean, who are we kidding? It's delicious. Okay, make sure you get around the sides because you will see the difference in color if you don't get that area. In the croissant video, I showed where I didn't get some of it, and you saw a definite line, and it looks much prettier when you have your wash on it. And yes, you're probably going to look at this and say, oh, she's doing a milk wash. That's not an egg and water. Yes, I am using the 4 eggs that I had accessible for the filling. I decided to go with the milk wash. It changes it a little bit, but it's going to be the sugars in the milk that are going to get nice and brown and give the color that we're looking for. Okay. Make sure that this is all pinched together really well. Come on. Okay. Good and good. This is a lot of cheese. I don't think I'm going to use all of it, but I'll use a lot, don't worry. Okay. Make sure I get all the 3 types of cheese. I mix it together really well. There are still some clumps, but they will melt. And yeah, I think this is a lot of cheese. You know what? I'll use the rest of this that I don't have in here. I'll use the rest in an omelet. I think it would be great. The whole purpose of this is for it to get melty. So I know that these cheeses are going to melt. The queso, the farmer's cheese that I used, is going to not melt quite as easily. It's a bit drier. That'll give a nice texture to it. The mozzarella is going to melt and make it stringy and gooey. 3 cheeses is going to give you nice textures. All right. All right. I think that's good. All right. Am I just overdoing it now? I think I'm just overdoing it. Stop, Cassandra. All right, these are going to go into the oven for 15 minutes. I'll take them out and we'll create a crater for the egg, put a little bit of butter, and then put them back in the oven to cook the egg. I'm going to take these out of the oven to put the eggs in. They are looking beautiful. Ta-da! And the cheese isn't sliding when I do this because it's kind of those 3 types of cheeses are making it a nice texture. All right, use the back of a spoon and make an indent in the it's so cool. The middle of the cheese. Okay, I'm gonna do all of my indents right now. Okay, And the eggs I'm going to crack into the bowl first, just in case there are any shells that are trying to escape. Woo, okay, so I learned now I have to make the hole bigger. Try this again. Let's do that. And then I'll put the egg here. Again, with another bread we made, pang, that one, that proved the eggs were actually a little bit bigger than we expected. The egg whites, they just kind of spread out. Ah, and there's a little bit of shell. Got it to the top at least. Let's see here. I know you're supposed to get your finger wet and it sticks right to your finger, but I was pretty lucky and I got it out. Okay. Spread this out. Pour in the egg. Still spreading a little bit, but that's all right. And we're clear on this one. Okay. This, and it's going to go in for another, I'm going to start at 5 minutes. You want the white of the egg to be cooked all the way through, but still a bit runny, because that molten cheese is going to keep cooking it a bit as well. Okay. I'm going to put it back in. Then we get to taste test. See you soon. All right. This has been sitting out of the oven for just a couple of minutes, and this is how it looks. Apparently the way to eat this, take a fork and you poke the egg. Oh, egg is perfect. And then you mix it in with the cheese. Mix that all together. And tear off the bread and dunk it in there. Here we go. And even if there's some of the white that's not fully cooked, right now it's getting fully cooked because it's mixing in with that cheese. And you do want to serve it hot, they say. Okay. Still very hot. Take off a piece of the bread. See how the bread turned out. Oh, really well. Kind of, I guess probably the shape, but kind of reminds me of a pretzel. Nice and fluffy and still very steamy. And that's the top that cooked. I'm gonna dunk it in. It is actually a lot like a pretzel. And how can you go wrong with bread, cheese, and egg? It's great. It's savory. The textures of the cheeses are really nice together because you do get some differentiation between the crumbly and the very melty, stringy cheese. Yeah, I want to do this all the time. This is great. I don't know if you could make it smaller actually because the egg. Oh well, I'm just gonna have to make the big ones. Thank you for joining me this week, and I will see you next toast time.